Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I'm Paul Ndiho coming to you live from Washington. Tonight we are looking at a key moment in US-Africa trade relations. Trade between the United States and Africa is growing, with a total goods trade reaching over $83 billion in 2025. Two developments are driving this shift. First, the extension of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, restoring a free duty-free access for African exports, at least for now. Second, the Lobito Corridor, a strategic rail and a port project connecting Central Africa's copper belt to the Atlantic. Together, they signal a move toward trade, investment, and infrastructure-led partnerships. We are also looking ahead to the 2026 US-Africa Business Summit in Mauritius, where leaders from government, business, and finance will gather to expand trade and investment. But first, let's take a listen to this short video produced by the Corporate Council on Africa.
In 2026, US and African government and private sector leaders will meet in Mauritius for the 18th US-Africa Business Summit. Mauritius, a nation built on stability, innovation, and partnership, represents the best of what Africa has to offer to its global partners. The next chapter of US-Africa trade, investment, and business begins right here. The 2025 summit in Angola delivered over $4 billion in new deals, a $1.5 billion transmission line between Angola and the DRC, a $170 million digital infrastructure partnership, a $760 million hydropower project powering Rwanda and the DRC, energy, agribusiness, digital transformation, finance, health. There is tangible impact in the US-Africa trade, investment, and commercial relationship.
As we accelerate the implementation of the AfCFTA, which has now been ratified by 49 members of the African Union, and trading is commencing within this regime, the objective for the African continent is to deepen continental integration, ensuring continuity and predictability of trade, particularly trade between the United States and African countries.
Join African heads of state, ministers, key US government officials, and CEOs and senior executives of US and African companies as they shape the path forward for US-Africa economic and commercial ties.
There's almost 1,000 business people here today. But all of our official travel in Africa, we will be carrying business leaders with us everywhere we go because this is a priority. Next, I don't have to convince the people in this room. You're already here. But we've got 300,000 business-ready American businesses who aren't doing business in Africa. That's my job. We have to find them, we have to make sure they understand what's available here and bring them to the market as well.
Our collective efforts are shaping a future where Africa and the United States thrive together. I encourage all of us to approach this summit with a spirit of collaboration. Let's think beyond just business deals and transactions, but towards long-term transformation.
Mauritius is a nation built for partnership, a hub for innovation, a gateway for investment, and the home of the 2026 US-Africa Business Summit. Save the date, July 26th through the 29th, 2026, for the 18th US-Africa Business Summit, the premier event bringing together all who are striving to enhance trade, investment, and business partnerships between the United States and the nations of Africa.
Now, joining me on this special edition is someone deeply involved in shaping these conversations, Flori Lizea, the president and CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa. She is the third person to lead the organization and bringing decades of experience in trade policy and Africa-focused economic engagement. Through her leadership, the Corporate Council on Africa connects U.S. businesses, African governments, and global investors to expand commercial partnerships across the continent. Ms. Froley, welcome to Different Perspectives.
Wonderful, Paul. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having Corporate Council on Africa here.
It's a pleasure to have you here for the first time. Before we dive into the AGOA and the Lobito Corridor, let's start with you may be bringing us up to speed. There's something exciting that I just saw in that video. The 2026 US Africa Business Summit in Mauritius coming up this July. Tell us more a little bit about that, then we can dive into the larger conversation.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Well, Corporate Council on Africa has been hosting the U.S. Africa Business Summit now for many years. And it is our signature event that brings together African heads of state, ministers from across the continent in different sectors, along with the high-level officials from the U.S. government, and most importantly, representatives and executives of African and U.S. companies who come together to talk about how to enhance the U.S.-Africa trade, investment, and commercial relationship. So we're looking forward to hosting in Mauritius in July, and we welcome all your viewership to come and be with us in Mauritius.
What makes this event particularly special to those who want to do business with Africa?
Well, I don't think you'll find any other convening that has the level of participation that we have. We had 2,800 people at the summit in Angola last year. We signed over 4 billion in deals, as you saw in the video. Again, it's a high-level gathering of U.S. and African business and government officials and leaders. And so, again, that's what makes it special.
How about for those people who don't know anything about this upcoming event, what can you tell them about it?
Well, as I just said, it's if you're interested in doing business in Africa, if you're already there and want to grow your business, we know there are many opportunities in Africa. And so again, all I can say is you need to come and be a part of the summit, grow your business, network with other corporate and leaders, as well as government officials from Africa and the U.S. Enhance the opportunity for prosperity both in Africa and the United States.
Looking at the larger picture or the bigger picture, the economic landscape today, which sectors do you think drive most momentum when it comes to, is it energy, is it technology, is it infrastructure, or agribusiness?
Well, I think it's all of those. I mean, obviously, you've touched on the key areas and engines of economic growth, not just in Africa, but actually globally. So, if we're talking about energy, agriculture, and agribusiness, digital trade, logistics, banking and financing, health, these are all key areas that are driving growth in Africa and are at the heart of what many of CCA's member companies are doing on the continent in those sectors.
Let's switch to the big picture now. Let's talk about AGOA. How can, what does the extension of AGOA in 2026 mean for African exporters and the US businesses wanting to do business in Africa?
Well, as you know, Paul, and hopefully your viewers know as well, AGOA was put in place in the year 2000. It provides duty-free access to the U.S. market for more than 5,000 African products that come, not just apparel and textiles, which you're showing on the screen, but value-added agricultural products, automobiles, footwear. Again, it is an opportunity under AGOA for Africa to send its products to the U.S. Duty free, and this has been important in diversifying and growing African trade with the United States over the years. So the 2026 extension, of course, we had hoped for a much longer extension, and we're working with all the stakeholders now to try to get an extension that will be longer term. AGOA lapsed in September of 2025 for the first time ever, but we're thankful that Congress saw fit to extend it. And it went through to the end of 2026 for now, and now we have the hard work to do with working with members of Congress, the U.S. administration, and as well as the Africans and the private sector, the people who are the exporters and the importers, the buyers and the suppliers of the products that are coming to the U.S. under AGOA. So we have a lot of work to do in a short period of time.
So the extension included a retroactive provision covering the lapse from September 2025. Why was that a provision so important for the companies operating under the AGOA?
Well, of course, what the companies need more than anything else is certainty. They need long term certainty about who they should buy from. Many of the companies under AGOA have been sourcing from Africa. And so many of them continued to import products from their partners on the continent, even though AGOA had lapsed, with the hope that it would be instituted retroactively. So, again, that retroactive application with the extension of AGOA to the end of this year was very important because products that had come into the US that were subject to duty would now be able to come in, and no duties would be paid. Those products that had already entered the US market starting in September until the renewal in February. So I just wanted to, make that clear that the retroactivity was indeed quite important. But more importantly, companies now know that they have, for now, until the end of 2026 to continue sourcing with factories and producers and suppliers on the African continent.
I've been talking to some people who are interested in this area here, especially when it comes to African produce like coffee, cocoa, uh, 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 and other cash crops. They wonder if this market, the AGOA, has that opportunity for them where they can export directly to the United States instead of going through other channels.
Well, it definitely does. But I think the most important thing about commodities like the ones you mentioned, cocoa and coffee, for example, is that it's not so much important to have the cocoa beans come to the US or the raw cashews or cashews in their shells come to the US. What's important is the value addition. Africa being able to roast the coffee beans, grind the coffee beans, send that to the US as value added products. And I think this is true across the board, whether you're talking about cashews and cocoa, or you're talking about diamonds and lithium. Africa faces the same challenge. In order for them to be a bigger player in the global trading system and benefit more from it, they have to be able to process their own raw commodities and natural resources, and turn them into the finished products, the manufactured products that the global marketplace demands.
There is an increasing discussion about modernizing AGOA. How might the next version of AGOA look like? You've been at the forefront of AGOA for many, many years. I remember covering you when you're still at Department of Commerce.
No, USTR, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, yes, yeah. So I remember those days. What has AGOA done? How can it change? Because there are people who said that it hasn't benefited them. How can a newer AGOA maybe help to reach some of those people?
Well, I think that just a second, someone's calling me. So, but basically, I think the new AGOA, when we enhance AGOA, the most important thing that we need to think about is ways that we can make it easier to operate and make it more reliable as a platform. So, first of all, we need a long-term extension. We hope for 10 years. At minimum. Second of all, we would like to see a change from annual AGOA reviews to reviews that are done every 3 years. And that would give more certainty to the investors. You know, they come in, and if you're investing in a factory in Africa, it's going to take you more than a year to get it set up and to then start to get the returns on that investment. So reviews of AGOA, for the eligibility of countries in Africa, we would like to see that happen every 3 years. And there's several other enhancements we'd like to see. One that I can give you is that in terms of Mauritius and other middle income African countries, we don't want to see them graduated, because what are they graduating to? And so we would like for there to be more flexibility on that, where once they have reached that level, according to the World Bank, that we not just immediately kick them out of AGOA for being successful, but that we perhaps look at where they are over a 3-year period or a 5-year period, and then perhaps take action, but also give them an off-ramp. If they're not in AGOA, what are they going to be a part of?
What role has the Corporate Council on Africa played in helping U.S. policymakers understand the importance of AGOA for supply chains, for investment and job creation? I talk to a lot of young people on the continent. They talk about jobs.
Yeah.
How can AGOA fill that gap?
Well, I think, AGOA has already created hundreds of thousands of jobs on the continent. And I know this personally because I have visited many, many factories across the continent. Even recently, when I visited Kenya, I visited an apparel factory where 80% of the cotton used for those shirts they produce comes from the United States, actually, goes to East African countries outside of Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, where it's sewn into yarn and fabric. And then the Kenyans are the ones who cut and sew it into the shirts that then come to the US and are sold at places, Target and Walmart and the Children's Place and so forth. So yes, I've seen factories just like that, with lots of Africans working there, and many of them are women and they're young. So yes, in terms of CCA's role, though, let me just say that we have for many years been supporting AGOA. We've been advocates of AGOA and beyond AGOA, even when the US was negotiating a free trade agreement with Kenya. We've been supporters of that. We've hosted the AGOA Private Sector Forum for many years. And so we believe that AGOA is an important tool, an instrument for enhancing the U.S.-Africa trade and investment relationship. And we also believe that AGOA has been beneficial in both directions. Beneficial for Africans in terms of creating jobs on that side, increasing exports from their end, but also beneficial for the U.S., where our companies and workers and consumers are also benefiting. And we have many jobs here in the U.S. that are linked to AGOA trade and two-way trade in general with Africa. So again, we think AGOA is an excellent platform. We're thankful it's been renewed to the end of 2026, but now we want to see how can we extend AGOA on a more long-term basis, and beyond AGOA, how can we build a two-way mutually beneficial relationship in trade and investment between the United States and the nations of Africa. Thank you.
We seem to have a lot of people watching us live, so let me give them a shout out. You are watching different perspectives, and we are streaming live across all social media platforms. Tonight, we are speaking with Froli Lizea, President and CEO of the Corporate Council for Africa. If you value conversations that go beyond headlines, follow us on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Spotify, and Substack. Just search for Paul Ndiho or Different Perspectives. And if you value independent journalism like this, you can scan the QR code or use the link in the description to support Different Perspectives. You can also donate using your Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Cash App, or Zelle. And to all of you watching us, we appreciate your support. Keep that support coming. Back to you, Ms. Froli. The United States has changed its way of doing business.
I am so sorry, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave. But I appreciated the opportunity to be on this show. I'm a shout out to all your viewers, and look forward to following up and hopefully to seeing many of them and you as well in Mauritius at the U.S.-Africa Business Summit. Thank you so much.
Well, if you give me the invitation, I'll certainly come. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
we appreciate you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So it looks like our special guest had to drop off, but I will continue maybe to weigh in on AGOA. AGOA has been around for nearly close to 20 years. It's been one of those trade and investment routes that a lot of Africans have been using to export directly to the United States without tariffs. It's been fascinating to watch, but of course, the politics behind AGOA sometimes also is something to keep an eye on. As we speak, the United States has shifted the way it does business with Africa, and AGOA is one of those programs that was not directly affected, but before they used to sign it for a long period of time, maybe 10 years, but now they just signed it. They just signed an extension for at least 1 year. What that means going forward, obviously, we don't know, but we hope that things will get better once the administration has an understanding of what AGOA does, how many businesses have, come out of AGOA, how many U.S. businesses have invested in Africa courtesy of AGOA. I think maybe they will change their mind. But as we speak, the extension is for 1 year, allowing African goods to come to the United States duty-free. And obviously, that means a lot for people who are interested in this sector. It's been a remarkable thing to watch. For those of you who are just joining me, the trade between the United States and Africa is growing, with total goods trade reaching over $83 billion in 2025. The two development projects that are driving this shift are First, the extension of the African AGOA Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, which has restored duty-free access for African exports, at least for now. The second is the Lobito Corridor, a strategic rail and port project connecting Central Africa's copper belt to the Atlantic. Now, this is significant in a sense that it's the United States has shifted its take on how it gives aid to Africa. One of the things that they are doing right now is to, for them, it's all about a business, strategic interests. For example, we are talking about the Lobito Corridor that connects Angola, Zambia, DRC. What's common in those areas? The copper belt has huge deposits of cobalt, copper. They have other minerals that need to be extracted and shipped directly to the United States. So that's why the Lobito Corridor is making a sense for the United States to continue engaging some of these countries. They are looking at it as strategically in a sense that they want to make sure that when they are giving aid, at least they are also extracting those minerals. Again, that's my opinion, but when you look at it from the bigger picture, that's what it looks like. They're trying to get minerals from Africa in exchange for some aid when it comes to some of the programs that have been there, like PETFA, helping giving any aid-related stuff or incentives are going to be tied to minerals coming out of that copper belt region. For those of you who have been to Zambia or the southern part of DRC, you know clearly that those are the mining hubs of some of these very, very important minerals like copper, coltan, manganese, cobalt. These places trade, I think that's the breadbasket of some of those places. So you have a lot of mines that were run and operated by foreign interests, including China, Russia, and now the United States is in the mix. So people are looking forward to see what happens with the Lobito Corridor. And for context, really, the Lobito Corridor is not a US infrastructure project. It has been there. It was actually built by the Chinese. But what they're trying to do is to figure out how to take advantage of that process to modernize the infrastructure that connects that corridor to the seaport on the Atlantic Ocean. And why this investment that the US keeps talking about is so crucial at this moment. The infrastructure has been there, but it was dying, and now they're trying to revive it courtesy of this new initiative called the Lobito Corridor. And together they signal a move towards trade and investment and infrastructure-led partnerships. Earlier, I was joined by the president of the Corporate Council on Africa. She talked about the 2026 Africa-US Business Summit in Mauritius, where the leaders from government, business, and finance will gather to expand trade and investment. The Corporate Council on Africa has done a remarkable job in trying to make those connections work for African exporters and American businesses interested in doing business in Africa. Now, there are other things that have been happening over the years. It's one of those things that remains to be seen, how the Africans who want to trade with America are going to leverage this extension. It's only limited for 1 year. It's a 1-year extension. So let's see, because by the time they signed it in December, now we are in March. So that means it's already, like 3 months, into, we are 3 months into it. And what might happen going forward, let's see if they can even extend it for another, maybe longer term. For now, if you are an African who has a business or who wants to do business in Africa, take advantage of this extension and see where the project goes. If you can export directly to the United States, remember, President Trump has put a lot of tariffs on countries, but with the AGOA, under the AGOA, the goods that are exported to the United States are tariff-free. So keep that in mind, tariff-free. And for sure, if you want to take advantage of that, that's okay as well. Now, there are countries that have been part of AGOA who were kicked out of AGOA by the Biden administration. There's been a shift right there. So those countries, I think, are still eligible to reapply to get back into the mix because Trump's administration looks at trade differently, looks at individual partnerships. Instead of coming in as a bloc or as a region, they want to do business with countries as on a country basis, not as a bloc. So for countries that were kicked out because they couldn't adhere to what AGOA or the requirements of AGOA, now this is your time to really get in and take advantage of this extension that allows your countries to export directly to the United States. And finally, let me say this. This project can scale small and medium-sized African businesses. And of course, it can also enhance regional integration. Talking about Africans trading among themselves. I think this is a moment where Africans should also start looking inward, become parochial, look inward, and start trading among yourselves. Lift those tariffs from goods coming from your neighboring countries and just do business, because that's how when you look at the European Union, you look at the United States, you look at the Americas, that's how they're able to stay afloat. They have figured out how to do business among themselves. And before I conclude, my sincere thanks to Froli Lizer, the President and CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa, for sharing her insights with us tonight. And we also look ahead to the US Africa Business Summit in Mauritius this July. The conversation about trade, investment, strategic partnerships between Africa and the United States is just the beginning. And finally, if you value what this kind of conversation and want to go beyond the headlines, follow us on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Spotify. Just search for me, Paul Ndiho, or Different Perspectives. And if you want to support our work, scan the QR code that is on the screen or in the description below. Support Different Perspectives. You can donate with a Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Cash App, or Zelle. Your support allows us to bring you thoughtful conversations directly to the audiences worldwide. And of course, we can also bring you more content like this. So if you want to support us, feel free to do that. For now, I wish you all the best, and thanks to Ms. Froli Lizer, the President and CEO of the Corporate Council for Africa, and thanks for watching.